Welcome to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/Brian E. Denton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is from chapter 300. Chapter 300. After talking for some time with the esaul about next day's attack, which now, seeing how near they were to the French, he seemed to have definitely decided on, Denisov turned his horse and rode back. "Now, my lad, we'll go and we'll get dry," he said to Petya. As they approached the watch-house, Denisov stopped, peering into the forest. Among the trees, a man with long legs and long, swinging arms, wearing a short jacket, bast shoes, and a Kazan hat, was approaching with long, light steps. He had a musketoon over his shoulder and an axe stuck in his girdle. When he espied Denisov, he hastily threw something into the bushes, removed his sodden hat by its floppy brim, and approached his commander. It was Tikhon. His wrinkled and pockmarked face and narrow little eyes beamed with self-satisfied merriment. He lifted his head high and gazed at Denisov, as if repressing a laugh. "Well, where did you disappear to?" inquired Denisov. "Where did I disappear to? I went to get Frenchmen," answered Tikhon boldly and hurriedly, in a husky but melodious bass voice. "Why did you push yourself in there by daylight, you ass? Well, why haven't you taken one?" "Oh, I took one all right," said Tikhon. "Where is he?" "You see, I took him first thing at dawn," Tikhon continued, spreading out his flat feet with outturned toes in their bast shoes. "I took him into the forest. Then I see he's no good and think I'll go and fetch a likelier one." "You see? What a wogue. It's just as I thought," said Denisov to the esaul. "Why didn't you bring that one to me?" "What was the good of bringing him?" Tikhon interrupted hastily and angrily. "That one wouldn't have done for you. As if I don't know what sort you want." "What a brute you are." "Well?" "I went for another one," Tikhon continued, "and I crept like this through the wood and lay down." He suddenly lay down on his stomach with a supple movement to show how he had done it. "One turned up, and I grabbed him like this." He jumped up quickly and lightly. "Come along to the colonel," I said. He starts yelling, and suddenly there were 4 of them. They rushed at me with their little swords, so I went for them with my axe. "This way." "What are you up to?" says I. "Christ be with you," shouted Tikhon, waving his arms with an angry scowl and throwing out his chest. "Yes, we saw from the hill how you took to your heels through the puddles," said the esaul, screwing up his glittering eyes. Petya wanted badly to laugh, but noticed that they all refrained from laughing. He turned his eyes rapidly from Tikhon's face to the esaul's and Denisov's, unable to make out what it all meant. "Don't play the fool," said Denisov, coughing angrily. "Why didn't you bring the first one?" Tikhon scratched his back with one hand and his head with the other. Then suddenly his whole face expanded into a beaming, foolish grin, disclosing a gap where he had lost a tooth. That was why he was called Sheshrbati, the gapped tooth. Denisov smiled, and Petya burst into a peal of merry laughter in which Tikhon himself joined. "Oh, but he was a regular good-for-nothing," said Tikhon. "The clothes on him, poor stuff. How could I bring him? And so rude, your honor. Why, he says, 'I'm a general's son myself. I won't go,' he says." "You are a brute," said Denisov. "I wanted to question—" "But I questioned him," said Tikhon. "He said he didn't know much. There are a lot of us, he says, but all poor stuff, only soldiers in name, he says. Shout loud at them, he says, and you'll take them all, Tikhon concluded, looking cheerfully and resolutely into Denisov's eyes. I'll give you 100 sharp lashes. That'll teach you to play the fool, said Denisov severely. But why are you angry? Remonstrated Tikhon. Just as if I'd never seen your Frenchman. Only wait till it gets dark, and I'll fetch you any one of them you want. 3 if you like. Well, let's go, said Denisov, and rode all the way to the watch-house in silence and frowning angrily. Tikhon followed behind, and Petya heard the Cossacks laughing with him and at him about some pair of boots he had thrown into the bushes. When the fit of laughter that had seized him at Tikhon's words and smile had passed, and Petya realized for a moment that this Tikhon had killed a man, he felt uneasy. He looked round at the captive drummer boy and felt a pang in his heart. But this uneasiness lasted only a moment. He felt it necessary to hold his head higher, to brace himself, and to question the Esau with an air of importance about tomorrow's undertaking, that he might not be unworthy of the company in which he had found himself. The officer who had been sent to inquire met Denisov on the way with the news that Dolokhov was soon coming and that all was well with him. Denisov at once cheered up and, calling Petya to him, said, "Well, tell me about yourself." And that concludes my reading of chapter 300. I will now proceed to my reflection on the same. A year of war and peace. Day 300. The curtain is raised. Of all the parents on the block, author Schopenhauer probably received the fewest requests to serve as babysitter for the neighborhood kids. One can imagine him gathering the little tykes together for their bedtime story, opening his On the Sufferings of the World essay, and leafing through until he found a suitably cozy passage, reading to the young children. In early youth, as we contemplate our coming life, we are like children in a theater before the curtain is raised, sitting there in high spirits and eagerly awaiting for the play to begin. It is a blessing that we do not know what is really going to happen. Could we foresee it? There are times when children might seem like innocent prisoners, condemned not to death, but to life, and as yet unconscious of what their sentence means. Nevertheless, every man desires to reach old age. In other words, a state of life of which it may be said, it is bad today and will be worse tomorrow, and so on to the worst of all. Sweet dreams, kids! Schopenhauer's curtain is raised for Petya Rostov today. Up until this point in his life, he's enjoyed quite a cosseted existence in the theater of life. His mother and father, rich aristocrats, have provided him all life's comforts, while sheltering him from the hard Schopenhauerian truths. It's showtime now, though, and Act 1, Scene 1 is a brutal introduction to the tragedy. It begins innocently enough. Tikhon returns to camp, and Petya listens while he reports his adventures to Denisov. It turns out Tikhon actually did fulfill his mission of capturing a Frenchman from the transport, though that Frenchman is nowhere to be seen. Denisov asks why. Tikhon responds that he felt the captive wasn't good enough, and he could do better, so he tried to fetch another one leading to the scene we read about yesterday. Denisov and Tikhon squabble over the wisdom of this decision. Initially, noting Tikhon's gapped-toothed, boobish grin, Petya laughs. He doesn't laugh for long, however, as the realization dawns on him that the reason Tikhon's captured Frenchman isn't with Tikhon is because Tikhon murdered him. Petya handles this harsh reality fairly well. The knowledge of the Frenchman's senseless death makes him uneasy at first, but he quickly assumes the role of a seasoned theater-goer who has seen this show before. There's still plenty of the play left, though. Petya's no longer at home. He's out in the world, in a war no less. A war the likes of which Europe has never seen before. Like all of us, Petya's going to need to develop the philosophical armor necessary to protect himself against the onslaughts of a hostile world. Simply ignoring or suppressing his emotions isn't going to work for too long. Instead, Petya might do better to ask himself whether if that which makes him feel bad is truly bad, or if his feelings are merely mistaken impressions. Daily meditation. But death, certainly, and life, honor and dishonor, pain and pleasure, all these things equally happen to good men and to bad, being things which make us neither better nor worse. Therefore, they are neither good nor evil. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. All right, that concludes my reading of and reflection on chapter 300 of War and Peace. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for listening. Remember that if you'd like to support me, you can do so either by purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, or becoming a patron at patreon.com. The links to all that are down below in the show notes in the description. Also down there, you're going to find links to my Amazon book and movie wish lists. If you purchase me something from there, we'll set up a Zoom call to discuss that book or that movie if you're interested in doing that. At any rate, thanks for any of your support and thanks for listening. Tomorrow, we're going to be reading and reflecting on chapter 301 of War and Peace. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.